Have you ever wondered if our world is moving closer to a global conflict? Are the current tensions a sign of an impending World War III? In today's video, we will explore the potential risks and the increasingly complex international situation. Are we standing on the brink of a new war? In history, both World War I and II originated from prolonged political, economic, and military tensions between major powers. Complex alliances, extreme nationalism, and conflicts of national interests led to uncontrollable escalation, resulting in catastrophic wars. Lessons from the past show that when international conflicts are not resolved in a timely manner, the risk of a global war can become a reality. The current global tensions are becoming increasingly complex, with many potential flashpoints for military escalation. The conflict between Russia and Ukraine has dragged on, causing severe consequences and pushing countries in the region into a confrontational stance. Meanwhile, relations between the US and China are also becoming more strained, with disputes over trade, technology, and influence in the Asia-Pacific region. In the Middle East, conflicts and political instability show no signs of easing, while border disputes in various parts of the world continue to heighten tensions between nations. All these factors create a global landscape full of instability, where even a minor incident could ignite a major military escalation. One of the potential factors that could lead to World War III is economic warfare, as trade tensions and economic sanctions become powerful tools in the standoff between major powers. We are currently witnessing a prolonged trade war between the US and China, with both countries imposing a series of tariffs and restrictions on each other's goods. At the same time, Western sanctions imposed on Russia in response to the conflict in Ukraine have caused severe economic damage and heightened international tensions. These actions not only weaken the global economy, but also increase hostility and push nations into direct confrontation. Without diplomatic measures to ease the situation, economic warfare could become the spark for a comprehensive military conflict. Another dangerous factor that could lead to World War III is military conflict, as uncontrolled regional conflicts have the potential to escalate into a full-scale war. Flashpoints such as the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, tensions in the South China Sea, and conflicts in the Middle East all carry the risk of spreading if peaceful solutions are not found. Even more concerning is the threat posed by nuclear weapons, as countries possessing them might use them as a last resort to protect their interests. Additionally, military alliances like NATO and other defense treaties could draw many nations into the conflict, turning regional disputes into a global war. When major powers confront each other and use military means to resolve conflicts, the world could quickly spiral into an uncontrollable war. A new and increasingly dangerous factor in the modern context is cyber warfare, where cyber attacks between nations can have catastrophic consequences, potentially leading to World War III. Cyber attacks are not limited to stealing information or sabotaging data. They can also incapacitate critical infrastructure systems such as the power grid, financial systems, and military infrastructure. When these systems are attacked, the consequences are not only economic damage but also chaos, loss of control in national management, and defensive capabilities. In an era where technology and information networks are the backbone of society, a cyber war can easily escalate into military conflict, as attacked nations may be compelled to respond to protect their sovereignty and security. The rise of nationalism and protectionism in many countries today is creating a dangerous political environment that could lead to conflict on the international stage. As nations focus on protecting their own interests, often disregarding international norms, this can heighten tensions with other countries. Nationalism often comes with prioritizing national interests above all else, sometimes by undermining or discarding international commitments, leading to conflicts over borders, trade, and security. Additionally, protectionism promotes policies of economic isolation, restricting imports, and fiercely protecting domestic markets, creating trade conflicts and pushing nations into confrontation. These actions can lead to a decline in international cooperation, trigger military responses, and potentially drive the world into global war if not promptly managed. The current global situation is witnessing rising tensions in various regions, leading many to worry about the potential outbreak of World War III. The conflict between Russia and Ukraine shows no signs of cooling down, despite international efforts for peace negotiations. The tensions in this area extend beyond geographical limits, causing global repercussions, from energy crises to food security. Meanwhile, the US and China continue to clash on multiple fronts, from trade disputes and technology issues to military tensions in the South China Sea and Taiwan. The relationship between these two superpowers is increasingly deteriorating, with continuous military exercises and harsh statements from both sides. In the Middle East, the Israel-Palestine conflict persists, along with foreign intervention keeping the region in a constant state of instability. These regional conflicts, if not controlled, could easily spread and involve many other countries. As diplomatic efforts face difficulties and involved parties are willing to use force, the risk of escalating into a global conflict is more real than ever. According to many political and military analysts, the risk of World War III remains a real concern, but some opinions suggest that this possibility is unlikely due to the complex entanglement of global interests. John Mearsheimer, a renowned international relations theorist, has warned that tensions between major powers such as the US, China, and Russia could lead to large-scale conflict if not managed in time. He emphasizes that the confrontation between these countries, especially in sensitive areas like the South China Sea and Ukraine, could easily escalate beyond control. However, other perspectives, such as those of Joseph Nye, a leading scholar on foreign policy, argue that economic interdependence and international organizations like the United Nations and NATO will act as mechanisms of restraint, preventing global conflict. Nye argues that while regional conflicts may arise, major powers are likely to avoid a global war due to the tremendous consequences it could bring, both economically and humanitarianly. Other military experts, such as former British General Richard Barrons, also point out that in the modern era, cyber warfare and economic warfare are becoming primary battlegrounds, rather than traditional military conflicts. These viewpoints suggest that while the risk of World War III exists, there are still many factors of restraint, and maintaining dialogue, diplomacy, and international cooperation mechanisms is crucial to preventing such a disaster. Possible future scenarios. Scenario 1. Conflict resolved peacefully. In this optimistic scenario, the nations involved in current conflicts such as Russia, Ukraine, US, China, and other hotspots will choose the path of diplomacy to ease tensions. Peace negotiations involving international organizations like the United Nations or other strong mediators will lead to ceasefire agreements or long-term peace settlements. Diplomatic measures such as signing non-proliferation treaties, committing to respect national borders, and enhancing economic cooperation will help stabilize the situation. In this scenario, the international community will play a decisive role in maintaining peace and preventing the risk of global war. Scenario 2. Regional conflicts continue but do not escalate. In this scenario, current conflicts persist but remain confined to a regional level. Russia and Ukraine might continue their confrontation in a prolonged conflict that does not spread beyond regional borders. Similarly, tensions between the US and China could remain at the level of economic warfare and indirect military confrontations, such as exercises or cyber warfare, without escalating into direct armed conflict. The Middle East and other hotspots may continue to experience instability, but without large-scale intervention from other major powers. Although tensions persist, the involved parties will seek to avoid a global war due to concerns about severe consequences. Scenario 3. Escalation into a global war. This is the worst-case scenario, where regional conflicts spiral out of control and escalate into a global war. An unexpected event, such as a major military attack or a nuclear incident, could trigger this escalation. Military alliances like NATO or other regional coalitions would be drawn into the conflict, leading to the involvement of more countries. The war would not only be fought on the ground, but also extend to other domains such as cyber warfare and outer space. The consequences would be severe, with significant loss of life, a global economic crisis, and potentially profound changes to the world order. Each scenario depends on the decisions of national leaders and the international community's ability to promote peace. While the risk of a global war exists, there are still many opportunities to prevent it through diplomatic measures and international cooperation. If World War III were to occur, the consequences would be incredibly catastrophic and could surpass anything the world has witnessed in the previous two world wars. Firstly, the human losses would be immeasurable, with millions potentially killed or injured. War zones would become desolate, with infrastructure completely destroyed, including cities, bridges, and essential systems such as healthcare and education. Economically, the war would lead to a global crisis, with the collapse of financial markets, severe disruptions in global supply chains, and widespread unemployment. Countries would face enormous expenditures on military and reconstruction efforts, while healthcare and social resources would be depleted. Inflation and famine could become widespread, especially in areas heavily affected by the conflict. The environment would also suffer greatly from the war, particularly if nuclear weapons or weapons of mass destruction were used. Large areas could become uninhabitable due to radiation, while air and water pollution could spread globally. Climate change could be triggered by large fires and the use of high-impact weapons, causing long-term consequences for ecosystems and life on Earth. Additionally, the war would lead to the breakdown of global social structures. Countries would lose political stability, leading to the rise of extremism, riots, and possibly the emergence of failed states. The disintegration of alliances and international organizations could exacerbate the chaos, making the world more polarized and trapped in a cycle of continuous conflict, difficult to control. In summary, World War III would have catastrophic consequences across all dimensions: human, economic, environmental, and social, with long-lasting impacts that could take the world centuries to recover from. In the context of increasing global tensions, preventing World War III relies on diplomatic efforts, international cooperation, and preventive measures. Organizations such as the United Nations, NATO, and the G7 are promoting dialogue and peace in hotspots like Ukraine and the South China Sea. Despite confrontations, major powers maintain communication to avoid escalation. International cooperation in counterterrorism, arms control, and cybersecurity are also crucial factors. Additionally, humanitarian programs and sustainable development help address the root causes of conflict. Finally, forecasting measures and surveillance technology are being deployed to detect and prevent the risk of war early. If implemented effectively, these efforts could prevent global conflict before it erupts. Modern information and communication technology plays a crucial role in preventing conflicts and reducing tensions between nations. Social media, television, and online journalism provide rapid information, helping stakeholders respond in a timely manner and avoid escalation. Additionally, technology facilitates direct dialogue between leaders through video conferences and emails, reducing the risk of misunderstandings. Data analytics and artificial intelligence also aid in early prediction of tensions, allowing for timely intervention. Modern communication fosters mutual understanding, builds bridges between nations and peoples, and helps maintain peace and prevent global war. Our world stands on the brink of significant changes, and our actions will determine the future. Let's work together to build a more peaceful and stable world. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to explore more important issues with us. See you in the next video.